So there was a comment in one of New Survivalist Now's videos. Somebody was kind of asking about the MRE situation and military stuff. I used freeze-dried long-term survival food from Uggos Farms. There's a whole school of thought among people who think that out-of-date canned food is the way to go. I have this can of corn that's shown up in a few videos that I just haven't opened. I keep it for serving to people who think out-of-date food is what they want to go for. 2002 date, we can make a video of you eating it, okay? As far as grocery store stuff too, also some packaging can be a little deceptive in that, like this coffee, which I got at Walmart really cheap, kind of nasty. But the packaging is very MRE-like as far as that goes. I know you've got common frozen food. Now, if you are specifically set up to be able to do off-grid cooking, you can think about, and off-grid refrigeration, you can think about frozen food. It's a valid thing to do. For example, at searches and food banks, they have their own refrigerators, especially industrial size stuff. If you have a lot of ice in freezers and then your food is frozen, that food can go for up to 2 weeks with those freezers not having power. Because if that's just one great big heavily insulated ice block inside of that freezer, you can go a while before that food goes bad. I, in particular, have a pretty costly system where with off-grid resources, I can microwave frozen microwave stuff. Okay, but that's me. I'm set up for that. I have a 12-volt microwave. I have a power system that feeds it. I have a battery system that runs all that, among other things, because of the way my superstitions work with propane appliances. The propane is only a backup. The primary is actually wood burning type stuff and microwave and electric stuff that runs on the 12-volt system. So if I didn't have that, I would probably do the MRE thing. When you're talking about the cost of MREs, you're talking about, $6, $8, sometimes $10 a meal, depending on who you buy it, where you buy it, what the circumstances are. What I've seen in comparison, nutritionally and cost, is that the MRE meal is about equal to a fast, a combo meal at McDonald's, Burger King, or Wendy's. Okay, that's about what it's equal to. It's about equal to a low-end restaurant combo meal. And I would tell you that the vast majority of U.S. military personnel would rather go to a fast food joint than have an MRE. And you could easily find a bunch of service members and say, okay, I'll buy McDonald's for everybody who gives me an MRE. Real easy. Everybody's going to raise their hand. They're going to go for that. And I've done that. I've done that in my platoon. I'd say, okay, everybody turn in your MREs. I'm doing a survivalist thing, and I'm buying McDonald's for everybody. Now, that was actually more generous than people gave me credit for, but I wanted to make sure, everything's cool between me and the unit. But I wasn't doing it totally for free. I'd say, listen, kick down your MREs. I'll buy you a McDonald's meal. And there were people who thought, oh, you're taking advantage of having my MRE. I'm like, oh, fuck, dude. Everybody else is kind of grateful. There were others who wanted to treat me like it was a criminal act. And they know damn well those MREs weren't worth the $5 to $7 at that time that the McDonald's meal went for. Most of the people understood that I was kind of taking care of the platoon a little bit, and we had a small platoon. I wasn't buying 30 fucking McDonald's meals, okay? But I would flip a $100 bill out to take care of the people. I'd flip out a $100 bill, take care of everybody. I end up with a couple cases of MREs. I'm cool, And even though the surplus buyers, the guys down at the pawn shop or surplus store only give them a $25 a case. I'd take care of my people in that regard. Now, what happens if you eat fast food joint stuff as your only meal on a regular basis? It can mess you up a little bit. There's a few different reasons. One of them is the high sugar content of the meals. if you eat this frozen food on a regular basis a lot, or canned food on a regular basis a lot, one of the problems you're going to have is salt toxification. It's high salt food. They do that for a preservative. They do that just in case it thaws out and doesn't stay frozen. They put a high salt content in the food as a preservative. If you eat that all the time, it can mess you up. As far as whether or not MREs will make you constipated or not do correct bowel movements or whatever, there's a few different reasons for that. One is that they're a highly efficient, dense food where there's no roughage. Your body's capable of absorbing almost everything that's in the MRE. Your body will absorb and expend that as energy. There's not a lot left over. There's not a lot of undigested stuff left over out of an MRE. That's why when people have lived on MREs for a little while and they go to take a shit, it's like deer turds. It's small, dense pellets because it's just not that much material left over when your body's finished fully digesting an MRE. The other thing is that in military training and doctrine, the idea is that when you eat an MRE, you should take a lot of water with that. One of the reasons is that the water increases the digestive surface area of the stuff you're eating, and also it helps that absorb into the body and get utilized by the body, especially under high stress situations. So that's what happens with the MRE. Now, if you go on a steady diet of that, then what's going to happen is certain sections of your lower intestinal tract aren't going to have normal use. And it's going to be a situation where in your colon, the colon's absorbing a lot of liquid out of that in order to make a more solid turd, okay, basically. And it's capable of absorbing all that water back out because, like we said, you're told to drink a lot of water when you're eating the MRE, and your metabolism changes over to that. So what happens, and the MREs are engineered to do that, is you're absorbing a lot of that liquid out of there, and there's not much left over but a pellet. When you change over from eating that to eating regular food, your body isn't quite going to deal with it the same way, and that's where some people get the diarrhea because their colon shrank while they were living on MREs. And so what happens is when this large payload of undigested roughage gets into their colon, their body wants to expel it right away because it can't handle the volume. It's used to the MRE food, which was mostly absorbed as it passed through, and all that's supposed to be left over is kind of a moist pellet, and their colon will have not been used to having a larger volume of roughage it is supposed to pass through. So that's kind of what happens when you're going to and from MRE type meal habits. As far as having MREs for 1 or 2 meals out of the day, that's entirely normal on military exercises, but what they found is there's different reasons to either promote or not promote that bowel movement regularity. For example, pilots, you don't want to have to take a shit when you're in flight. Special forces guys who are being helicopter deployed a lot, you don't want to have to take a shit in flight or while traveling. And so they're going to guide the meals, and there's a whole meal plan, an operational meal plan, which usually has it where your only meals in the middle of an operation are just going to be the power bar stuff, MREs, not a lot of regular food. You would do feasting right at the beginning of the mission and after the mission, but during it's pretty much just MREs and power bars and energy drinks and all that because you don't want to have to stop to take a shit. In long-term operations, a lot of times you don't have choice, and then morale gets to be an issue, especially with the salt and preservative toxification that can happen if you've been eating that stuff for a long time.